Welcome to Black Health Matters. I'm Daryl Armistead, your host. This episode is a Zoom recording of Howard University group session led by Dr. Clive Callender.
Daryl has shared a lot about his experiences with uh, hearing aids. I have the same issues, and uh, it's so important to your brain to be able to hear the sounds that you hear, so it can respond appropriately. And it's interesting how this data says that 1 out of 3 between 65 and 74, but half of those people who are older than 75 have hearing problems, but many people don't do anything about it. Of course, there's many articles in the newspapers about now that the hearing aids are out, what can you do about it? And one of the things that you won't know unless you got an audiologist is whether you have mild hearing loss, moderate hearing loss, or severe hearing loss, or profound hearing loss, and whether the hearing aid you get is capable of addressing any of those issues. And then, of course, the next issue is what causes it. Of course, I think John Buchanan has articulated many ways in which his hearing has been affected. I think mine is probably affected by using earphones and having the voice level up too high for a long period of time. But there are other sources of hearing loss, like conductive hearing loss, and the nerves, the auditory nerves being blocked, the combination of the above. Uh, and I think that this is something that we can do something about. That's the nice thing about hearing loss. You can do something about it for the most part. There are situations that you can do something about. If you have the nerve loss and you have the bones affected, then you may have to have surgical intervention. This is a nice line about what to do with people you're talking to can't hear you. And of course, my children kept telling me they couldn't hear me, so they kind of forced me to go to an audiologist and get hearing tests. Uh, that's one of the things that you can do. That's one of the things that buying a hearing aid won't do. It won't let you know which of the hearing problems you have, and it doesn't help you in terms of knowing uh, what to do after you get the hearing aid, in terms of how you get support and those kinds of things. Then, of course, the real sign of hearing loss is here's what happens. These are the signs. Keep asking people, what did you say? And you think people are not speaking clearly. I remember I went into an office and was wondering why the sound was so mumbled. And then I realized it wasn't the production of the sound, it was my hearing. So often the loved ones will tell you, that you keep asking, what did I say? And so if you listen to them, they'll advise you what to do, advise you to see realities. Was somebody asking a question?
Dr. Callender, I know that the AARP has a system where they give you a telephone number to dial, and you can take like a hearing test over the telephone. And it has different sounds. It'll say press 1 if you hear a sound here, or press 2, or if you don't hear a sound. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I did one some time ago, and it indicated that I did have a problem. And sometimes I do find that, I might ask an individual, what did you say? Especially sometimes individuals with, an accent, I may say, repeat that, especially when I call on the technical assistance, like for IT assistance, and they have individuals overseas, and sometimes I can't really understand what they're saying, and I might say, repeat that one more time. But I was just letting you know that AARP does have a phone system that you can take a hearing test by.
Right,
And
and
then,
that's very good to know. And they
mhm.
also have a system for people who really are deaf, who can't hear that well, so you can write out exactly what people are saying to you.
Mm.
And there
Yeah,
are aids that exist that if you use them, they can help.
And
And
of
another
course,
I
thing,
took a I took a hearing test from an iPhone app, and I think it's available for Android too. And it produced an audiogram that was very close to what I got at a hearing center. So it was a pretty good audiogram, and it told me I had a moderate hearing loss.
Great to know. Those are nice ways of doing it. Um, of course, one of the commonest things that you'd like to find is that you've got wax that's obstructing the sound, but of course that's one of the least common problems because that's easily remedied by taking out the wax. But, any other thoughts or things that you want to share with us about the things that are available over the counter other than the hearing aids, which are now available at the pharmacies?
I
hey,
have
Dr. Dr.
experienced it with my son. Chris has hearing loss, but it was almost immediate hearing loss. He woke up one morning, couldn't hear, couldn't walk, vertigo really bad. And he was in the hospital for almost a week. Definitely, he had what they called at that time severe hearing loss. And the only explanation they gave for it at the time was stress, which it's permanent. I mean, he still has the hearing loss. And you always do that second opinion. And Dr. Callender, David took him to Dr. Myers because David had been to almost every doctor at Howard. And Dr. Myers confirmed all the results that the VA doctors had done, and he was impressed with the hearing aid that they had given him. And then, of course, with my son, he wanted to take it a step further, so he went to a second opinion doctor in Massachusetts, which he went there several times. But the only thing that the improvement that he received, the vertigo improved. But I think that happened. They sent him to classes to help him deal with vertigo. He could feel it coming on, and there was certain exercises he can do to keep him from, at one time, he would literally drop to the floor. So he's not at that state yet. But vertigo is serious. Hearing loss is serious. And I'm hearing about it more and more now. I don't know why that is, or maybe I'm more focused on it now. But definitely for him, it's a permanent thing, and it never did get any better. But he's adjusted to it. As a matter of fact, he makes a joke out of it sometimes because I'll talk to him and then I have to push him and then we pretend that we're doing this sign thing. But the aids work. So if you think you have a problem, check it out.
Yeah, the more commonly the labyrinthitis that is associated with that is usually temporary. And his, of course, is different because it's permanent. Many people have had the labyrinthitis and had that phenomenon, but not many of them. It's temporary, and after a period of months, it goes away. But Chris has been different. His completely the vertigo and the hearing loss. It's interesting to see how he's been able to successfully overcome the vertigo, but not the hearing loss.
Not the hearing loss, nor the tinnitus. With tinnitus, you have that constant
Right.
ringing.
Right.
So he still has the ringing.
Yeah, that's right. The tinnitus, of all those things, I think the tinnitus may be the one that bothers people even more than the hearing loss because it's constant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it drives people to depression.
Yeah,
Dr.
I have tinnitus. I've had it for maybe 10 years. I guess I got used to it, but sometimes at night when I'm trying to go to sleep, it's pretty loud, and it's just hard to go to sleep.
I've had it since childhood, and I'm just used to it now.
Does it affect your sleeping at night?
No.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I had it for a brief period. I thought it was awful. It only lasted maybe for a couple of hours, but seemed to be inconceivable that you could even sleep. But I guess you're right, you can get used to it. Understand?
Dr. Callender, we're told we go to the dentist twice a year, you go get various exams once a year. How often, or should you use earwax remover to clean your ears? How often should you do that?
The ENT specialist suggested that you take the once a month, and that will keep the wax from accumulating.
Really?
That's what they recommended to me, which I didn't do. So, but that was the recommendation that they gave, once a month.
Oh, wow.
But I think whatever it accumulates, some people it accumulates over a period of 2 to 3 months, and some people it takes longer than that. When it accumulates, that it needs to be removed, because it does interfere with your hearing.
I see.
Dr. Callender, is that another one of those things I hear a lot lately at your age? So is the wax buildup something that happens more to seniors?
I'm not sure about the answer to that, except that wax happens to everyone, but it seems as though we're more understanding of it, or recognizing it as we get older. But I don't know about this as a problem for younger people. So that's a good question. We have to ask the ENT people about the younger people. I know us older people, yeah, it is something that I have to have for me, like maybe every 3 months or so. Okay, so this is something that is and the audiologists and the ENT people will say that in terms of understanding how to keep your hearing aid functional, you do need some help. So, now, how have you dealt with that? Do you go back and forth to the audiologist, or what have you done about it? I go back to the audiologist periodically, every 3 months.
I saw on one of the slides that you shouldn't ask a person to keep putting on their hearing aids or something like that. Why is that?
Ask people to do what?
To hear. It says, don't force them to use a hearing aid.
Oh, you say don't force them. You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you encourage them, but you can't enforce them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
You should encourage them as much as possible, because it is in their best interest for their brain to function well, and for them to be able to hear what people say.
Yeah, yeah. I have a 93-year-old godmother who just refuses to use hers.
Yeah, well, pride and ego. I remember when I was started using hearing aid, I was the only one in the room that had one at the time, and it was kind of embarrassed to use it. But after time, your inability to hear makes it much more desirable to hear than worry about the embarrassment of doing it.
I don't know why she does.
I'm laughing because, sometimes you get cheap hearing aids and you don't like them. They just amplify the sound, but they don't fill in the missing frequencies. And so forcing somebody to use a bad hearing aid, that's not really addressing the problem. The problem is they should get a hearing aid that works better.
That could be. I don't know. She's had several different types. So what?
Yeah, probably all cheap types, I bet.
I don't know. Yeah.
I have a question about that. Don't force them to see a doctor. So that word should be encourage them to see a doctor.
Yes.
Yeah, that pride thing, and then you got to realize that most people with slight to moderate hearing loss don't even recognize, they don't truly believe they've got a hearing loss. They blame it on everything else. Other people aren't speaking loud enough. They're not enunciating clearly. The TV's not loud enough. It's everybody's fault but their own. They just really don't believe they've got a hearing loss.
Right.
So true. So true.
Mhm.
And
Dr.
then if you don't speak louder, and if you're whispering, because sometimes I'm saying, especially I got 2 grandchildren that talk very softly and I can't hear them. So I make a joke, speak louder because I'm older and I can't hear you. But even, even people with not here, I don't know, I had myself checked, but I thought speaking louder, especially if somebody had a hearing problem, would help. But this says even speaking louder doesn't help.
Nope.
Yeah, that's because word recognition comes with the consonants, and if you lost your high frequencies, you can't hear the consonants, and so you really need the context. But somebody can speak louder, and you don't hear the consonants, and you don't really know what they're saying.
That's exactly right.
The other thing, Dr. Callender, is that sometimes people with hearing loss, they can hear themselves very well. And so they have a tendency to talk softer because they can hear themselves. But it's other people that can't hear them when they talk soft.
Okay. Any more time, Betty? You had a time?
No, I'm fine. I just wondered because, but I know my godmother knows she can't hear because, like, when I take her to the doctor, she'll tell the doctor or anybody to tell her because I can't hear good, but she still won't wear those hearing aids.
What about the elderly people who are fine not hearing people? They don't want to hear anybody.
That's not good. It's not healthy.
No, that's not.
Yeah, I can see the connection between Alzheimer's dementia with hearing loss, because over time people become less communicative when they have a hearing loss because they stop talking to people, they stop listening because they can't hear the TV or the radio, and without those verbal connections in their head, their brains tends to shut down.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what the data shows. So it's important to be able to hear for many reasons.
Dr. Callender, I hear Daryl better than I hear you. I hear high voices better than I hear low voices.
Well, you can't hear me as well as because this computer I'm working with today is a little different from the one that I'm usually on. So there is a difference between the two of us. It's not your hearing so much as it is the computer.
It might be that I can't see your lips because I might be half reading people's lips.
Yeah, that's something that people with hearing loss do as well. All of us do it. We don't appreciate it as much because when people you can't read their lips, then that forces you to be able to listen to exactly what they were saying and hearing the consonants and those things that Gal mentioned. So you're right. So I'll try to keep my so you can read my lips.
Okay. My mother used to say, let me put my glasses on so I can hear what you're saying.
Read my lips.
Yeah. So what do you call it when you really can't read lips? Because sometimes I'm in church and somebody's mouthing something to me and I said, I can't read your lips. Is there something wrong with not able to read people's lips?
Well,
That's
it's masking the hearing deficit. That's all.
yes, also your eyesight.
That's the new one. Okay. Okay. Any other comments about hearing loss? Um, I think we talked about it adequately. So common. This is an interesting article about the signs of anxiety. I'm not sure how well it's understood, but of course, anxiety, of course, is now one of the commonest ailments we have. Mental illness, of course, is becoming more and more evident, uh, especially since the pandemic. And it all is interaction. You know, one of the things that is important to realize is that if you don't have good mental health, you're not healthy. In order to be healthy, you have to have physical and mental, and as far as I'm concerned, and spiritual health in order to be healthy. And so I think often we forget that mental health is an important part of your health. And as such, you need to see the doctor about your mental health as well as you need to see the doctor about your physical health. And some would argue you need to also deal with your spiritual health in the way you see fit. So all three of them are important because health is a combination of all three of those factors. In terms of being anxious, sometimes you have a good reason to be cautious. Living in the United States and grew up in Southeast DC or certain parts of Chicago, you are necessarily cautious and anxious. So the question is, when does this anxiousness really reflect anxiety? And when does this anxiety get to the point that you really need to have help? And
Dr.
really,
Callender, I wanted to make a point here that every time you see these 12 articles, they're links to the article. So you don't see the article, but all you see is the titles on here. So in order to get the most out of this one, you have to actually take the link and go to those articles to read them.
okay. And it's interesting, the metabolic links to anxiety and the different mental situations, because there are metabolic changes in the brain that affect your ability to be anxious or be depressed or not. And this article is about the food and other things that psychedelic, other things that are used to treat mental health disturbances. And there are different medications that are effective, and there are different foods that help. And it's interesting that they talk about immunization from bacteria, but what about a vaccine that could prevent stress, anxiety, and depression? And that's an interesting thing. And I think that when we talk about meditation, we talk about yoga and other things like that. That's the brain science behind all of that, and kind of help you understand why stress is something. It's interesting. There's been a number of articles that talk about why stress is bad for you, but there are some articles that also talk about why stress is good for you, because it activates you and forces you to respond. And responding is an important part of your survival. So that you have to be able to respond in order to survive, so that it's not all gloom and doom to be anxious, because sometimes it's very appropriate to be cautious. But when you're cautious about everything, then that becomes an issue. And you would call it worrying well. That's what they would call it. because it's an important part of being a normal and a moral person. You worry about your health, you worry about your nutrition, you worry about your safety. And so it's an important part of the aging process. Any other thoughts about anxiety and mental health issues? I noticed recently Biden has authorized millions of dollars that will now be used for mental health. And I think that's a step in the right direction, except it should be billions rather than millions. Any comment about anxiety and stress? This article talks about the link between unhealthy diets and depression. Nutrition, of course, is an important part of our health. And you're never too old to adopt healthy life habits. And this link between depression and ill health, and the tryptophan and other things like that, identify those foods that are most likely to contain tryptophan and essential amino acids. And you see that, of course, Darren doesn't like this, but dairy products, poultry, bananas, oats, nuts, and seeds, everything but the dairy products. But the rest of them are very important because they have the essential amino acids that regulate behavior in the brain and prevent us from getting Alzheimer's disease. I think any other comments about nutrition and its relationship to depression and Alzheimer's? And whenever they talk about this, they always talk about the value of physical exercise, which we talk about ad nauseam.
I was in a study at Howard, Dr. Callender, where they were studying exercise, diet, and memory. And
What
it just, I haven't heard the conclusion yet, but the study ended last year.
Oh, okay. Be interesting to see what is found out about that. They should probably be publishing soon.
I had a question, Dr. Callender. Is there such a thing as a sweet tooth? I heard about it. I think my mom had a sweet tooth and she had Alzheimer's. Is there a relationship between sugar and memory loss?
Well, then most people think there's a link between sugar and everything is bad, including memory loss. But the ironic thing about it is that what is the metabolic pathway that doesn't use glucose? I mean, all of them use glucose, so that glucose is important. The problem is whether you exceed the glucose limit, and that is where the reaction. And the sweet tooth is something that we label for those people who are addicted to sugar. They say they have a sweet tooth, and so far we haven't been able to associate that truly with whether or not you have diabetes or not. But that is something that does not actually exist.
Google says too much sugar causes cognitive declination. Besides killing the brain cells, too much sugar in the brain can also cause slowed cognitive function and even memory or attention problems for seniors. Furthermore, it weakens and damages the blood vessels, which again leads to a declining mental capacity.
Right, and so the question is, what is too much sugar for you? And some would argue any, but remember, glucose is an important metabolic. Matter of fact, it feeds almost everything that we're doing because glucose is metabolized. The problem is when you use too much glucose, and that's the question. How much glucose is good for you and how much is bad for you? And those people who, and that's why most of the studies have concluded that sugar and salt are two of the most dangerous products in our diets.
I could consider myself a person that has a sweet tooth, but I also have a salt tooth because I love potato chips and this, that, and the other. But I know when I was younger, I was active, you know, I played sports and this, that, and the other, and didn't seem to bother me. But now that I'm older, and I won't say it really bothers me, but I can notice that things that my memory and stuff like that is not as sharp as it used to be. Just could come with age. I have kind of cut down on the sweet and the salt, but not as much as I know I should. So maybe I need to do a little better at that.
How old are you? You tell your age?
78.
Oh, a great age.
Yeah, 78 and a half.
Okay, all right.
Dr. Callender, the only sugar that I eat is if I eat an occasional something that's processed, but I don't use sugar in anything, but I eat a lot of fruit, and I know fruit has a lot of sugar in it. But I eat the fruit rather than eating the candy.
Good. I think that's healthy.
I eat both.
Vegetables, fruit and vegetables are what you should be consuming. So nobody's going to tell you about the fructose that's in fruits because it's healthy.
But I have a pretty good memory.
Good.
Everything is relative.
Yeah.
Dr. Callender, up here where I am in the rehab, all of my meals, no salt, and the sugar that they give me is the sugar substitute.
I see. Good. Okay. Way to keep you healthy now. Okay, this is an author who talks about burning twice as many calories while walking. And this is interesting because we all recognize that walking is one of the ways of doing aerobic exercising. And the minimum, of course, is 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So that walking is one of the most versatile exercises. But they talk about the hiking as well, and the brisk pace of walking is perhaps better than the leisurely so, because you burn more calories, and that's the emphasis that this article is about, is that brisk walking is better than just the leisurely walking, because you burn more calories. Now, it's not to say that this is a way of losing weight, because it's not really a good way of losing weight. Aerobic exercise is a good way of keeping your heart working. And it's good for you, but it's not really the way you lose weight. However, if you walk at a fast pace, you can certainly burn more calories. That's what this is. Then walking uphill is even better than that. So this is interesting. Walking upstairs, walking downhill. That's different from the casual walking pace. So they use pace as the way to increase the caloric benefit of walking. So it's interesting how they correlate if you go between 60 and 80 pounds. They don't talk about your height, but probably if you're 6'4" and you're 180 pounds, it's different than if you're 5'10" and 180 pounds. How many of you walk uphill and do those things with this start? Now you see a lot of people walking, moving their hands back and forth as they walk. But this is another part of the ways to burn calories as you walk.
Yeah, a year ago I started walking, but 4 or 5 months ago I started swimming. So I stopped walking is not, to me, not as efficient a calorie burner as swimming.
Right, and walking is not really a good calorie burn. Actually, walking, the ability of the calf muscles to circulate the blood through the legs is one of the benefits of walking. But in terms of using it to burn calories, that's not the most efficient way of doing it. Although these ideas take it to another level in terms of walking uphill, walking fast, and brisk walking. Add to walking what you may not get that you get from your swimming, because swimming burns up energy calories. But as Dr. Ivy told us, it doesn't take care of the calf muscles, pushing the blood up the veins as well as the walking.
Dr.
Dr. Combs,
Callender, go ahead, Sylvia.
yeah, I was just saying I do walk, but I guess I say that, it keeps my heart healthy. It's a brisk walk. And, I don't burn a lot of calories. I walk for maybe an hour or so, but, I'm looking at the heart staying healthy. Is that a bad assumption there?
Correct assumption. Correct assumption. Right.
Thank you.
Dr. Callender, I saw earlier part of this article that says that walking strengthens the bones. Is there some point where, walking is hurting the bones? In other words, let's say you have, knee problems, or you have your bone density is off kilter or something like that. Was walking would be a detriment at any point?
Yeah, if you have arthritis that hurts when you walk, then you actually need to join John in doing water aerobics, because that does away with the pain that goes away with arthritis. So that water aerobics you then do for those who because of pain can't actually walk. So that's what you. So for those who have that, they do the exercises in the water, and that does away with that.
And Dr. Callender, I had those issues walking. I had my right hip was painful, and I told my doctor, and she gave me a muscle relaxer called Mobic, and it worked miracles. The pain went away, in my hip. But since I don't walk now, I have pain in my shoulder from swimming a little bit, and I use that same muscle relaxer to help with my shoulder as well. I've got like a bursitic type pain in my shoulder that
Yeah.
is
My
aggravated.
experience is that most of the walking aches and pains come from not walking properly. What I mean by that is some of the tips they said, like stand tall, take shorter steps. That's very important. People tend to overstride, and that overstriding will cause hip problems, plantar fasciitis. And focus your gaze. That helps to keep your head up. One of the things they didn't mention when walking or running is be sure to nose breathe, avoid mouth breathing. You can improve your endurance a whole lot by nose breathing.
And nose breathing also filters out a lot of the pollen.
Okay, well, this is a very good session to talk about the exercise that is good for you. This is interesting. You say things about it, potatoes. I never really paid much attention to that until I saw this article. But they say that you should remove the sprouts first. That's interesting. How many of you actually have thought about the sprouts? I have never really thought about it because but then I don't cook it, so I wouldn't know about it. So how about those of you out there? Have you paid attention to the sprouting of the potatoes?
I just take the sprout off and cook it, just like they said. I didn't even think about them being good or not good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But what about green potatoes? Like when they're green, can you eat them? Like I cut the sprouts off of mine, but when they're green, I don't. And I take it either throw those away or take the whole bag back to the store. You know anything when they're green?
Awesome.
you see what it
Oh.
says?
Yeah, there it is. You should cost them. Okay. So I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not right.
That's not right.
What do you think about potatoes as a source of nutrition, Darryl?
Yeah.
They make my wife go to sleep when she eats potatoes.
Darryl? Darryl, did you hear my question?
No, I'm sorry. I don't have my hearing aids in. So what was the question? Because I'm wearing earphones to hear the broadcast. That's why the hearing. As soon as the broadcast is over, I will be back to my hearing aids. I love them. What was the question?
What are your thoughts about potatoes?
I'm with healthcare benefits, and I'm calling.
Oh,
Potatoes.
potatoes. Yeah, I cut off the sprouts, but I just check to make sure the potato's not rotten. If it's rotten, I'll throw the whole thing out.
So you think potatoes okay as a source of nutrition?
Are potatoes okay if?
Yeah, as a source of nutrition.
Oh yeah. Let's see. What's the deal with potatoes? Potatoes high in potassium. Um, Okay, your best choice for potatoes is red potatoes, followed by, I'm sorry, sweet potatoes are best choice. Red potatoes, white potatoes, last choice, because they have higher glycemic content for white potatoes. So that could, that could raise your blood sugar levels. So red potatoes, if you have a choice, get the red rather than Idaho.
It's interesting that most people don't appreciate that the what do you call it? Sweet potatoes.
Sweet potatoes. Yeah.
Yeah, that they are healthier than other potatoes. Sweet potatoes, we often forget how nutritious they are because they're sweet. But they actually are.
I don't know
One of the things about potassium is that it actually lowers the blood pressure.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't know whether my sweet potatoes are better because I load them up with butter and sugar and cinnamon.
Well, stop doing that. Sweet potatoes are okay all by themselves. They don't need anything else.
They are, but they're better tasting with butter.
Yeah, but add cinnamon. You can add cinnamon, but it is an acquired taste. It takes an adjustment to get you where you want to go. Because you got the sweet potatoes, you got the yam, you got the purple potatoes, and you got the red potatoes, and that's where you stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you load them up with sugar, they're not potatoes anymore. They're just candy.
They're candied.
Throw some marshmallow in with it too.
Amen.
Candied sweet potatoes. Something. Some people use brown sugar instead of regular sugar. So, what's the difference?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sweet.
Much sweeter.
I have more of a molasses. Something ingredient is related to molasses or something.
Brown sugar.
Brown sugar
No.
instead of white sugar.
I know it's more nutrition for you because
the white sugar is from the brown sugar, but it's just processed.
Yes. It's interesting how
White sugar, more bad. Brown sugar, bad. All bad. Sugar, bad.
Yeah, I realize it's
Bad, but
bad.
if you choice, if you have to adjust your body from the white to the brown to no sugar, then that's the path you go.
At 78, I haven't gotten to no sugar yet. Not there.
Well, congratulations.
Not there. I'm just not there.
It takes time.
Okay, this is interesting. That obesity risk and no air fluid linked to air pollution in this study. Actually, we all recognize that obesity is not ideal, but that pollution is compounds the problem. That's it. Then they say. Why should that be? It's interesting that more fat makes you more susceptible to air pollution, and of course, the physical activity also helps. The question is, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? The obesity, does the pollution cause obesity, or is it the obesity that makes you more susceptible to the pollution? One thing is clear, that the pollution is a constant problem that we have, as you know, about the fact that the ozone level is decreasing, and so our pollution therefore is increasing, and that's becoming more and more of a problem.
This country is consuming so much sugar, it's getting into the air.
That's an interesting point. Have you ever wondered why your stomach rumbles? And GI motility is all about that. You know, it's interesting because when you first start fasting, one of the things that you recognize is that you have the hunger pains, and the GI motility becomes more evident. And then as you go on through the fasting process, it goes away. Now we call it bulgaritis, medically speaking, which is a term we use for the way the intestines move food around from the stomach, the duodenum, through the small intestine, the urinary, and then the ileum, then finally to the colon. And so this activity of the normal function of the intestines is what causes that rumbling. Now the gallbladder releases bile, and the pancreas releases enzymes that play a key role in metabolizing the food that you eat. And as it goes through, the peristalsis is the term they use to describe the way in which the intestine moves the food along. And this is what you hear when you hear the rumbling. Is the intestine moving the gas and fluid content through the intestine on its way down to the large intestine. Now this is an interesting, crazy thing about the voodoo, huh? I have no idea why they put this idea of sick. That's not saying that you love your spouse that much. Why does drinking alcohol always make you hungry? It affects the appetite center of the brain. So, it's interesting. Is that saying that it's infects it in a way that makes you want to eat more, which makes you more obese. How do you feel sick when you're hungry? Huh? But I never felt sick when I was hungry, but some people get nauseated when they're hungry. Of course, that doesn't help the fasting part. How many of you have done fasting and have experienced some of these things you're talking about? Fasting is a healthy way of resting with the gastrointestinal tract really rests. And it's a very healthy cleansing process that we do less in the United States than other places. And of course, as we look through the older books, Bible and such, fasting was just a normal process that everybody did as they felt that although today to obey is better than to sacrifice, it's still the sacrifice of fasting is thought to be spiritually rewarding as well as physically rewarding.
I lose my appetite when it's hot. I don't eat as much in the summertime as I do in the winter.
Okay. Anybody else have that observation?
I used to fast, but you know, I'd have so many hours where I would just eat within an 8-hour period, and the other 16 I would fast. But with the liver condition, I think you have to eat smaller meals more often.
All of our
So
operators are busy at this time. Please hold and your call will be answered momentarily. Thank you. Exercise regularly to strengthen your lungs. Always
okay.
wash your hands or use hand sanitizer.
Pearline, can you mute it? Pearline, can
Okay.
you mute it?
Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
So I stopped fasting and because they said I had to have a steady amount of protein in my diet. So and a fast probably would hurt me.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Any other concerns or comments you want to make about this interesting article and the rumbling that the gastrointestinal tract brings to light?
I fasted a long time ago, but here lately, I just try to cut down on what I'm eating as opposed to just fasting.
I think Elizabeth talked about fasting periods, and others have talked about it. What's the longest period you fasted?
Long time ago, I was just trying to lose enough weight to get into a particular outfit. I think I fasted about 30 days.
Wow.
Just water.
Just water.
Just water.
That was an interesting part about fasting, is that some people, when they fast, they don't take water, but it's healthier if you fast to take water, although we that the maybe earlier in the Bible, we talk about fasting without taking water as well. And that we've had people who died as a consequence of fasting who didn't take water.
No, I did do water, but I didn't do anything else. But now I just cut back now. Just watch what I'm eating to a degree.
Any other comments? If not,
I have one question, and I should have asked this when the nutritionist is here. How many pounds overweight are you considered fat? And how many pounds overweight are you considered obese?
okay, well, of course, Darryl has commented on this before, but with the BMI of 25, you want to be 25. Between 25 and 30 is being overweight, and over 30 BMI is obese.
Oh, wow.
That means most of us are obese.
So if you're 25 pounds,
25 BMI.
Huh?
BMI of 25 is normal, between 20 and 25 is
Your
normal.
BMI, body
The
mass index.
Yeah,
the
could you
body
give it
mass.
to me in pounds?
Well,
Well, you have to, there are BMI calculators on the internet where if you put in your height and weight, it'll tell you your BMI. That's a body mass index, but they're calculated by pounds.
And your height.
Mhm.
Yeah, your height, put it in the calculator, it'll tell you your BMI.
So
We
if you're
have one
20
on, we have a chart on our refrigerator, Carol.
Yeah, I took it down. So,
Why?
so you weren't using, okay, so 25 pounds
No,
over,
25 BMI.
no,
No,
BMI.
it's not.
No, it's not pounds. BMI is the height versus the weight, and the product is
Up with a pound.
BMI. And the BMI 25 is between 20 and 25 is normal weight. I think Gal is less than 20, aren't you? But the 25 and 30 is overweight. Above 30 is obese.
Most
My
of the
BMI,
chart. Go
my
ahead, Dan.
BMI my BMI is 21.
You're right in the range. Okay. All right.
Carol, we need to put the chart back up. I'm telling you that.
I gotta find it. Okay, I was just wondering because if all of us came to a realization that, because I had one friend we were talking about, another friend's weight, and I said, well, that person really is obese. And if you ever told them to their face they were obese, they would get real mad. But I said, she said, well, am I fat? And I said, yeah, most of us are fat, but we don't say that. We just say slightly overweight. Or if we really realize that we're obese, I think we would have a different mindset. That's why I was asking for about pounds and stuff like that. Because when you say BMI, then you gotta sit up there and calculate. But if you say, if you're 10 pounds over your targeted, then you're fat or obese, then I think it would be different. But the BMI just throws us into a different way of being in denial. Because very few people, except for Daryl and Dr. Callender, know what BMIs are.
Well, it's time to be educated about BMI.
Yeah,
Just-
but by the time you're educated, you're obese.
Just
Okay.
tell people you're big boned.
Well, I don't mind saying that I'm fat, but I'm less fat than I was. And I measure my fat on if I can walk up and down the steps and not be out of breath, then I feel like I'm doing better.
But what if someone told you were obese? How would you feel?
You can tell that don't bother me. I'd rather be obese than skinny in my mind.
But actually the BMI chart, if thinking about it, most of us, and I'm talking about African Americans, I'm not sure about the other races, but most of us would end up either fat or obese looking at those charts.
True.
When John was in China, they said that most Americans are obese.
Overweight. I think
Most Americans.
Overweight.
Obese.
Overweight or obese. Yeah, looking at the numbers on those charts, you would fall in either overweight or obese category.
When you go to foreign countries, it's easy to spot the Americans. They're the fat ones.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next one.
What I feel comfortable with.
You're a mosquito magnet. That's an interesting. When I was in Africa, I was the only person who the mosquitoes didn't bother. And it always made people wonder, what's in your blood? How do you smell that mosquitoes don't bother you? And that's a question that was always emerged because why is it that some people are so-called mosquito magnets? What is it that the mosquitoes smell that attracts them to you? And of course, we know. I guess one of the commonest killers of mankind is malaria, and of course that is because of the mosquito that infects us. And this is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads disease like yellow fever and malaria. And the question has always come up: what is it about you that makes mosquitoes like you? And what is it about it that makes mosquitoes not like you? And I'm not sure that I know all of the answers. I know people believe it's related to your skin bacteria and your blood.
And Carol and I are just the opposite. She's the magnet and I'm the repellent.
I had heard one time that if you had that mosquitoes like O positive blood.
I've never heard that. I don't know whether that's true or not. So,
I'm O positive and they like me. That's for sure.
They like me too. I'm O positive.
I'm O positive.
But I read that somewhere.
There's one theory that mosquitoes are attracted to body heat because they have infrared vision. And so if you're familiar with infrared goggles, that's where you have night vision because you can see living animals because they produce body heat. And the hotter you are, the bigger target you are to mosquitoes. So if you take your temperature and say your normal body temperature is 99, you're more of a target than somebody that runs 97.
that's interesting.
So
I
it has,
think that
So I heard that mosquitoes can smell carbon dioxide, and that's what we exhale. And they can track us in a house or even outside by your carbon dioxide exhalation.
But everybody exhales CO2. So that's, it can be more than that.
so all
The
this
mo-
all this
most-
kills my theory of too much cologne or too much perfume, huh?
That's a more attractive theory, but I don't know.
Mhm.
I haven't seen the definitive study on that.
Okay.
Skin so soft.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's supposed to
Yeah.
work so well.
Yeah.
and
I-
they've actually done studies and said the mosquitoes are attracted to certain colors.
Hmm.
Well, here's the other thing. The issue is whether they bite you or not. That's the issue.
Well, if they're not attracted to you, they're not going to. The question is, what makes you the repellent, John Tatum, and Carol the magnet?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
The body mass content.
Body mass. Oh Lord. If you're fat, you know.
Carol is something.
I have to refer this this question to what my mother did. We were reared in the area where they had to go around and spray for mosquitoes, because that's the area I lived in, because we were so close to the water. And in the southern states, that's what they did in the PM, especially in the summertime. They would go around and spray the neighborhood to decrease the growth of mosquitoes. But one thing my mother did so that we wouldn't be bitten a lot, she didn't give us sugar. We did not.
No.
We only had desserts only on Sundays. And she says that mosquitoes was attracted by, that's what she believed, that mosquitoes were attracted by the sugar in your blood. And she sure that she cooked with a lot of garlic, onions, and celery and those kind of things.
Amazing.
So that meant if your glucose level was really, really high, then you would be attracted to mosquitoes.
Well, she did the opposite because they didn't have glucose except on Sunday. Is that what I understood you to say?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. have dessert. And believe me, the dessert that we had, my mother could slice you a slice of cake that was thinner than the side of your fingers. It was a total of 7 of us, 7 kids, but it was like 2 groups. She had 4 of us, and then 10 years later she had 3, so it was like 4 and 3. But she was a conservative of how to feed us. So when she sliced you a slice of cake, it was very thin. All you had was a taste.
Dr. Go,
And she believed in you drinking a lot of water.
Dr. Go, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes. When I was little, we used to hear that only the female mosquitoes bite, you know, to suck up blood, for their egg, to incubate their eggs. And the male mosquitoes don't bite. They just come and sing in your ear and run away. How far is that true?
It sounds very true.
I have no idea. So,
Well, I believe that's true, Doctor. The female mosquitoes are the only ones that can spread those diseases by injecting into your bloodstream. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
this is interesting. The hurricane inside the community has been plagued by hordes of mosquitoes, and perhaps because of the flooding and everything else, and of course the bacterial infection and illness is spread by plastic perforating standard. Water thought to be the problem, and it's amazing how nature can devastate us more than anything else. When you think more about hurricanes and floods, and I guess the other thing, of course, is fire and water.
Google does confirm that only female mosquitoes bite people.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That's true for human females too, isn't it?
You're talking yourself into some trouble.
They bite too.
John, you're going to get my channel kicked off the air. I'm going to get a YouTube strike because of comments like that.
Okay. Sorry.
Save those when you go home if she lets you, if she lets you come in after comments like that. So mosquito control then becomes very critical because of the spreading of disease, as I mentioned. It's amazing how devastating these hurricanes and floods can be. And that when the mosquitoes come in, when they transmit the different diseases. Interesting how these diseases of the past come back to the future. Guess we haven't, we've been so far, I guess we're overdue for flooding in this area. And right now we're in the fall season, so that period of mosquitoes is yet to come for next year. Yeah, this is we had an article on this before, and the point that now the tongue and the throat are the new COVID symptoms. Now, blocked nose. And it's amazing how the other common symptoms have become much less common. And this is a good graphic that shows how fully vaccinated have one way, partially vaccinated and unvaccinated. And you see how the symptoms differ. And in many ways showing the merit of being vaccinated. But of course, as we come across another article that talks about the fact that the flu would make things even more difficult, as flu did as well. Anybody who has not yet received the COVID booster?
I don't have the last one yet.
Because the next thing is the flu vaccine. Which
I
remember,
got both of them.
you remember to get the double dose?
Yeah, I got my flu, but not the.
Did you get the double dose, Linda?
I believe my primary doctor gave it to me, so I'm assuming she gave me the
I didn't
double.
assume anything. Should ask them. Of course, your doctor knows you. Probably, he knows your age as well as anybody else. So,
Mhm.
because over 65, you should be sure you get a double dose.
Yeah.
Dr. Callender, does that simply mean 2 doses of the same thing?
No, it means that you have a vaccine that has a double amount of immunity than the other one. So a single dose that doesn't have the double antibody product is not as good for the person who's over 65. Because your immune system is not as potent as somebody who's under 65. And therefore, they have a special dose for those over 65 in which the dose is doubled. And so you need to ask them, those who go to a doctor who lives in for years, they're over 65, they will automatically do it. If you go to the pharmacy, then he doesn't know you from Adam, then it's important that you let him know that you're over 65 and you want to have a double dose. You need to ask for it. You're knowledgeable enough to recognize that as you age, your immune system wanes, and therefore you need to be protected more than the person who's under 65. So I'm suggesting that you ask for a double dose.
Dr. Callender, I got my shots from the DC public health. The nurse came to my aunt's house and gave her the flu and the vaccine, and gave me the flu and the vaccine at the same time. Do you think we got the double dose?
How old are you?
I'm 71.
Yeah. They usually look at your age. If you're over 65, they know that they should give you the double dose. So, but I think it's good for you to know it and also ask to be sure, make sure. I would imagine they come around and they know that you're over 65, that they would automatically do the double dose. But
Yeah, she's 93.
okay.
I care for her.
Yeah, so they would probably know that. But I'm just suggesting that you should ask
I'll
to make
remember
sure
next.
that they give you the double dose. People who are in 66, they may not even think. If it's 90, they would know. If somebody 80 or 90, they would know. But I think all of us should be knowledgeable enough to ask for it. and ask them, is this a double dose? So that they know. Usually they have both. So it's just a matter of asking for it and making sure that they give you the.
Okay.
Kevin, which kind you have to get?
What did you ask?
Which one do you have to get? Double or single dose?
Who were you asking, John?
Kevin.
Oh, I thought, okay, I get the double dose, but I haven't got it yet. I got my flu shot. I mean, I got my vaccine last Saturday, and I'll get the flu next week.
Right. Okay. And of course, those people who are immunosuppressed, they need a double dose, obviously. This is an interesting article on increasing pregnancy-related death. Talking about number of women who died from pregnancy and childbirth complications. Disproportionately affected Black and Hispanic women, which existed beforehand anyway. And I guess there's data that indicates that the Native American population is been more affected by this than the Hispanic and African Americans as well, but especially the Native Americans who have been ignored for decades. Many wondered why the United States has the highest maternal mortality in the world. And it's an issue that still is debated. My daughter is a obstetrician gynecologist and talks much about this problem. Black and Hispanic, we talk about, they don't really address the Native Americans who are actually have an even higher mortality. We talk about the Black and Hispanic, and leave out the Native Americans. You know, you think that this is their country, that we would be more sensitive to them. Not. And then, of course, the Black and Hispanic populations are aware of it, but the data still reflects that maternal mortality is higher in the United States than most other, all other developed countries.
Yeah, there was a part of that last article that said that hospitals are shedding their obstetric services in low-income areas. Why do you think that is?
When it should be just the opposite. I have no idea, because it should be just the opposite. In the low-income areas, that's where the maternal mortality rates are the highest. They need it more than they ever. That's not good. Okay, some would argue that they don't care. That's good. That's good. I would argue. We don't care about it. And I think the data reflects that. Of course, the fact that we don't have the work speaks for itself. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Do you think it has anything to do with a lot of people now having doulas, or what we used to call midwives, delivering their babies instead of hospitals?
They do that in hospitals too. Hospitals have doulas.
Oh, okay. But a lot of them are doing it at home too.
Well, maybe so, but they're still doing a lot of it in the hospitals. Doulas and midwives deliver a lot of babies at hospitals.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
DC had a hospital that had to cut out obstetrics because they had too many deaths. That hospital over in Southeast.
Oh, yeah. Of course, yeah, that was, yes, that's the, that was last year. Yeah, they stopped them from doing it because of the
Right.
high mortality.
The ones that are done at home are probably not part of the study.
Probably not because you have to be relatively healthy to do it at home. Probably. And probably have good care up until that point you decide that you want to do it at home.
I know my niece was having her daughter was having her first this was going to be her first grandchild. So she took the courses and whatever you have to do to become a doula. And so she could deliver her grandchild.
I see.
So
Okay.
I don't know.
Now this is what we fear this year, the triple demic of COVID, the flu, and the respiratory virus, which is already infected many areas. Already pediatric hospitals are overflowing with people from RSV, the rhinovirus. And we think this is a foreboding of what is going to come when the flu season hits us. That the RSV, the flu, and the COVID are going to hit us all at the same time in the flu season. So they are requesting everybody to get their vaccinations ahead of time. And of course, now is the time to get vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated. It's interesting, I went to a basketball game the other day, and I think in a crowd of about 19,000 people, there's probably about 50 people who wore masks. Yeah. And that's an indoor. Outdoor is less problematic, but indoor. And I felt like a alien wearing a mask. Of course, this is early on now. So in another 2 weeks, the season will be upon us. Be interesting to see what happens since we've abandoned most of our healthy practices that we used during the pandemic.
I was on a plane 2 weeks ago, and the people that were with me, 3 people with me, and we were the only people on the plane with masks on.
Well, it's interesting. Taking the plane, the safest part of the plane ride is in the plane. The real place that you need to worry about is outside of the plane. All those people are walking with you and to and fro the plane.
Well, we had it on. We had it on in the airport. It wasn't nobody in there with a mask on. Only the Uber driver.
I think but that's where that's where the virus is passed, because if they have a respiratory system in the planes that allows the filtration to be good in the plane itself, and outside of the plane,
Okay.
it's the virus more likely. It's very interesting to see what happens this winter. There is another variant that seems to be increasing, so it's interesting to see what will happen with this new variant we're talking about. That's this variant. That's new. And we're all fearing because of what happened in the flu. That, they have a very flu film winter. I guess you have the flu vaccine and the COVID vaccine. You try to stay safe. It's tough. If you look around and nobody around you has a mask. I think the point about those of you who are immunosuppressed, of course, are more at risk than others.
Dr. Callender, do you have more information about that RSV?
No, I haven't seen any other than the article that you have read that talked about it, particularly Denver. And I think we might see if we can find some more articles on it. Because they talk about what you can vaccine for. They don't talk about RSV. This is a little bothersome to me. In fact, that we have such a small percentage of people who are fully vaccinated. Just 49% compared to amazing. Being fully vaccinated is not a thing. And we've talked about why people are reluctant to become vaccinated. In this country where it's so easy to be vaccinated. And the relatively underutilization of the bivalent vaccine is very problematic. Will there be another surge this fall?
No.
We should know.
Well, the article talks that it will be. I mean, there's a surge.
Well, we anticipate it, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know. They anticipate, yes.
I thought this was, to me, this is irrelevant. To test positive. So, sure. Who hasn't tested positive? You almost have to look for those people who haven't tested positive. The president, Tony Fauci, and everybody else, he joins a list, a huge list of people who have become positive. So like what it says, you need to be vaccinated. Yeah. Now, this is, you mentioned a comment about anticipation, and this is why Europe had a cold temperature, and they've had COVID numbers increasing. And so this is the reason why we think that we may have the same thing. What happens there often happens here as well. So, what does that mean for us? I'm not sure. Does that mean we'll have to take another vaccine in 6 months? I'm not sure. Have to wait and see. XBB is the one that we're talking about now that we are wary of. Although I think you may be complacent because we have had the booster. Should we be? I don't know. We'll find out. It was an interesting article about.
I wouldn't.
And what a distinction, huh?
He left.
You take the first batch when you're 60 years old. And not long, it's interesting. It was 60 years old, but it was 34 years later. He said not long after, but how long after? That's the problem with art, with these articles. They're so vague. I mean, it's 34 years later. You got it. Yeah.
It's Iranian.
Wow.
All that dirt was covering him from any kind of virus, I'm sure.
One thing, he lived to be 94. That's one thing that's wow. It's interesting for those who are interested in yoga, which is a form of exercise and is meditation that is proven to be a benefit. And so, and I think this is something that comes from the East, but the power of it is well known in the West. And so there's so much, when we think about Eastern medicine, we sometimes forget that this began long before we became, in the West, aware of it. And yoga is just one of the things that the Eastern East has provided. When we think about medicine, a lot of the old medicine practice in the East, and it's not appreciated in the West until recently.
Yeah, Dr. Callender, I think a lot of people don't realize what all is involved in yoga, but it can be very involved with all your muscle groups, stretching and strength. The down dog is an awesome exercise. I can hardly do it. The planks, it's almost like doing push-ups, but it's another level of strength training that I think some people don't realize. The meditation part comes at the end, when your body's like totally benefited from all the stretching and all the exercise and the breathing, while you're doing that.
Well, this article clearly lets you know that it is more advantageous than most of the other exercises. It has benefits that are well proven to benefit. So the Western world is now aware of the great contribution of yoga to health, which it wasn't before. Before there wasn't much data on it. Now there's plenty of data that indicate the benefits of yoga.
This could help Chris with his balance too.
Well, I think he's kind of worked out his balance. He worked out his balance. But tonight and Sunday, definitely some really good water work for him. Now, in the healthcare field, there's a lot of burnout. And, meditation is now being recognized as a stress reliever that may decrease the rate of burnout. A lot of the burnout is related to the business of medicine. Not so much the practice of medicine, but the business of medicine.
Yeah.
You had a comment, Betty? Okay. Yeah, but I think that meditation, one of the issues that is less emphasized. We talk about exercise a lot. Sometimes we tend to forget about we talk about mental health and physical health and forget about the spirit and the value of meditation. Because, as I said before, we have to have physical, mental, and spiritual health. And I think that meditation provides that aspect of it. That's good. Also, yoga provides as well. Food for thought. Any comments or thoughts about that? Very clear that it helps. But as we talk about health, we tend not to include that as an important part of armamentarium to the health. We talk about nutrition and other things. We tend to underemphasize or appreciate the importance of meditation. Not in this group, but we're talking about in general.
Dr. Atto?
Yes. Yes. I have a quick comment. When I was living in Africa, when I was small, we lived in a rural area where there's no water. The only water we have is what we collect from a well. We dig up a portion of land and let the rainwater settle there. And then we fetch the water and use for bathing. And when the water dries up, then we don't bath. For weeks, months, we don't bath. And then in certain areas in Africa, some communities don't bath at all. From the time they are born till the time they are dead, they just use clay mixed with some herbs to paint their body. I think the Kenyans is practiced in Kenya. And I wonder, in the civilized world, like the Western world, where you bath every day or every 2 days, what is the importance of bathing? And does it reduce the microbes that protect our skin from infection?
That's a great subject and a great question. And I'm not sure I know the answer to it. Sometimes what we practice and think is a given is not actually a given. And I think that's why John put that article in there about the guy who didn't bathe at all. Because we think it's not necessarily healthy, but it's good for others around you if you bathe. I'm not sure that we know that it's good for our health. I think a lot of it is concerned about negatively impacting those around us because we stink, perhaps. But I haven't read an article that really answers your question. And so if we can find one, have to get it. But I don't know any article that has actually looked at the question that you posed, which is a very good question. I don't know, Darryl, do you have any information on how those who bathe and those who don't bathe, how that affects their longevity and their health and welfare?
No, I don't. The only thing that comes close is I remember during the Dark Ages with the bubonic plague and Dark Death. I mean Black Death. In Europe, it was the practice to bathe only like once a year. Um, that wasn't a universal practice in Europe. The Moors in Spain they were daily bathers, but very interesting question about, whether regular bathing is beneficial. I have no idea.
I'm going to do what Elizabeth has done, talking about her mom. It was 1903, and one of her philosophies, we didn't bathe daily. We used to bathe once a week, but my mother's philosophy was too much water rust iron, so I shouldn't put it on.
Well, let's see if we can find some data on it. I don't know of any. So let's try to find some data. So we're going to answer your question next week. Great question, though.
Thank you.
Now, this is interesting. I was surprised that TB is still killing so many people. But apparently TB is still has taken over from COVID as the deadliest infectious disease in the world. And
Wow.
I was surprised because I thought it was malaria would be second to COVID, but this article points out that TB is still killing people all over the world. Can you imagine killing over 4,000 every day? Can you imagine that? For TB, wow. Especially since we have treatment for it. But anyway, I thought it'd be interesting to just hear that article that points out that it is a disease of the poor. And I know I had it when I was 15. And I guess that meant that we were poor. It never occurred to me that we were poor, actually, until I came down with TB. And then I guess I was forced to recognize it. I guess we were poor. I didn't realize that until about 10 years later. I thought we were wealthy. Everything is relative. Interesting. Now this is I think it's maybe one of the last articles we can do. But Ebola virus had an outbreak in Uganda, and because of the airplane, we are fearful that people will bring this disease into the United States. And so most churches have been warned about this and asked to develop strategies to address this. And this is something that we hope does not occur, but it's the fifth outbreak in Uganda since 2000. So, and mortality rate is 50%. So it's a disease you want not to come into this country. And the point is that there are no direct flights, but that doesn't mean you can't get to the United States from Uganda. And so, while it first originated in Republic of Congo, it's still moving. And so the question is, what can we do to keep it from spreading across the world? So the screening needs to be done at airports. So I don't know what else we can do locally, except to identify travelers from Uganda. And should we have visitors from Uganda, we could notify. The question is, though, are all churches still getting having people fill out forms when they come to church? And our church does, but I don't know if other churches are still doing that. You do that at your church, Carol? You haven't still fill out forms?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Are they still out forms in your church? When people come to the services, they still have to fill out forms
Oh, no, they stopped that. Now we can sit on any other road and all that kind of stuff.
But no forms, which means that people could come from Uganda and come to church and spread Ebola. And anyway, the district of health is informing churches so that they will be aware. I don't know what else you can do about it. Especially our church, we still have to fill out a form when you go to, but it only addresses COVID. It doesn't address any other issue. It doesn't address whether you travel or whether you get out of the country. And that would be something that maybe we should add to our food for thought. Any other thoughts about this?
The calendar. Dr. Callender, what is the name of your church?
Asbury United Methodist Church.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things about Ebola that's different from COVID is that when you get Ebola, you're dead within a very short period of time. So it's very easy to trace because of the death pattern, but it's extremely virulent, and it's like I said, it's easy to track where it came from, where it's going. So contact tracing of Ebola is a cinch.
Well, except that if you don't know where people come from, the only way you know is after they die, and by that time they've contacted other people, and there's a 50% mortality rate. So it then becomes important to know to identify people who actually been to parts of Africa, and people go to Africa every day, and so and they don't necessarily come directly from Uganda and then come to the United States, and they stop off somewhere else. And so knowing whether they have been to Uganda or Congo becomes important in the history. But since we're not getting that information, somebody could theoretically come to the church and spread it. It's food for thought anyway. But your point is well taken that that it's the high mortality rate is really easily traceable. You want to get to it before that. This should be the last article because we don't feel the polio. We talked about the outbreak of polio in the fluid they found it in the pool, in the water. And so they had one person who actually developed polio and was paralyzed. And so they now are using the polio vaccine again. And they're trying to the risk of this disease becoming infected with people again. Having one case, no one suspects it could happen more than one. Okay, I think we should stop here. So it's frightening though to have that concern.